Animation is a medium that works beautifully with comics. Ever since Fleischer's Superman and Popeye came onto the scene, animation offered scenes of incredible action and spectacle that live-action films simply couldn't. Over the following decades, animation was far ahead of the curve with their comic book adaptations. They weren't limited by stunt work or special effects. If it could be drawn, it could be shown. Simple as that. Live-action films would have to either go with a character much more grounded that could feasibly be done on a normal Hollywood budget, or revolutionize filmmaking. I'll let you guess which option was favored. But something revolutionary would happen to the entire industry. The birth of CGI. With CGI, live-action films and shows had a new unprecedented access to many more characters. You can adapt characters like Iron Man, the Transformers, or Ghost Rider, or revisit characters like the Hulk, Spider-Man, or Superman and show off their full power. CGI provided this insane scale that was unimaginable a few decades ago. With this advanced technology, Warner Brothers decided it was time to finally bring a superhero outside of the Super and Bat families into the limelight. Green Lantern. It was supposed to start a cinematic universe, but that simply didn't happen. It was a box office disappointment, and the industry hasn't gotten over it.
You're welcome, Canada.
And please don't make the super suit green. Or animated.
What did you think I was apologizing for?
I mean, there's a list. Green Lantern.
Yep.
There was a Green Lantern movie, but we don't talk about that.
Oh, a nano fist. I haven't seen that since I hate-watched Green Lantern in 2011.
We wouldn't get a big Hollywood push for Green Lantern until 2026's Lanterns, which has had a mixed reception given the lack of the main thing a Green Lantern is known for: color.
If I were Green Lantern, my costume would be green, now wouldn't it?
But outside of the mainstream, DC fans have known a different story. Green Lantern wasn't some forgotten failure, it was a continuous success. Kyle Rayner would breathe new life into the Green Lantern comics in the 90s. Jon Stewart dominated animated TV in the early 2000s. Then in the late 2000s, DC would make a huge Green Lantern push in the comics. Then after the Ryan Reynolds movie, the mainstream audience got Lantern crumbs. Fans exploring other mediums would see a non-stop light show in video games and cartoons. The Green Lanterns got their own animated series, and 2 more animated movies. 3 if you count Justice League vs. the Fatal Five. And in my opinion, that is where they work best outside of the comics. Now, does that mean I don't want Green Lanterns in anything else?
No!
As a fan who grew up on Batman the Brave and the Bold, I was extremely happy to see Guy Gardner in Superman, played by my favorite Hal Jordan voice actor, Nathan Fillion. But there are reasons why live-action Green Lantern doesn't work. Before 2011, there were 2 reasonable attempts at live-action Green Lanterns. Both used 2D animated visual effects to illustrate the powers of the ring. Or in Legends of the Superheroes case, 2 powers: teleportation and shooting lasers. But that was 1979. In 1997, the Justice League of America pilot showed off the power of imagination much better, but it was hampered by the budget of live-action television. Green Lantern can't use his powers too much.
We have a very tight budget to do what she's asking. We'd have to raise taxes.
Raise way too high as they are.
Which would be repeated with CW's Green Lanterns. Smallville's Alan Scott was imprisoned years ago. Arrowverse's John Diggle finds a Green Lantern ring and gives it up because his spin-off wasn't happening. Stargirl's Alan Scott dies off camera, and his daughter Jade is still learning the ring's abilities, only forming constructs rarely and mostly shooting lasers. All in part because...
It'll cost you.
Okay, that's all like basic cable television though. If we have a larger budget, then surely that'll display the powers better. You'd think that, but no. Green Lantern 2011's budget was $200 million. I cannot tell you how much of that went to the CGI, but I can guarantee you it was a lot.
The total visual effects number for the film was approximately 1,400 shots. The effect of creating constructs and blasting requires about 10 or 15 different layers of effects.
Superhero films already beg for a large amount of CGI, so let's add the sci-fi genre to it, costing more money for aliens, outer space, and other worlds. Oh, by the way, there are 3,600 sectors, so don't repeat aliens. By the way, we're using Hal Jordan, who's part of the Air Force, so we're gonna need some CGI jets too. Also, we want the main antagonist to be a huge dirty space octopus. On top of that, every character in this intergalactic peacekeeping force can create anything out of nothing. Do you see the problem now? That is already a ton of CGI. So any way they could decrease the amount of work on the VFX team, I'm sure they'd be very thankful they didn't do that, did they? The suit and even the mask itself were CGI, with energy flowing through the suit constantly. So even in a scene where Green Lantern is sitting down, the CGI team has to work insanely hard. Yeah, Ryan Reynolds was right!
And please don't make the super suit green or animated.
And yeah, I know, the lore, but a practical suit can fit just as easily. Just look at the black suit from Raimi's Spider-Man 3. Yeah, it's canonically a goop monster, but it's practical with some CGI details when necessary. The audience will believe what you tell them if you pull it off well. What doesn't have this problem is animation. You can Sailor Moon that lantern whenever. It doesn't help matters that they went the extra mile with the constructs. They're portrayed as literally assembling into objects out of thin air. That is really cool, but there's a bit of a problem. It really puts the hard into hard-like constructs. When the CGI portrays constructs this way, it limits the possibilities. It's too solid, too much structure to it. The Green Lantern has to make an entirely different construct if they want to do something else. Not the case in animation. A construct can morph into a different thing entirely if a lantern wills it. Another unfortunate part of this direction is how nearly everything that's made is very rigid. Lantern rings aren't just for making weapons or solid material like metal or rock. They can make soft things like beds or baseball gloves. They can bend into thread or rope. They can make giant robots, swords, or animals. They can make anything.
Wait a minute, did you say anything?
Anything.
Anything?
Yes, anything.
Anything?
Anything.
Anything? I'll get you, and I'll look like a bloody accident.
The only two constructs in the 2011 movie that aren't solid, rigid things is a small pool of water that Hal uses to save Dr. Amanda Waller. I know, that bothers me too. And the sun Kilowog creates to fuck with Hal. Which leads me into my next point. As far as I've seen, Hal isn't imaginative in any of these live-action projects. In the movie, almost everything he makes is kind of basic, either stock things like a brick wall, swords, or a chainsaw, or things that he could have seen in his military career like a flamethrower, minigun, propellers, or fighter jets. The most creative thing he gets is transforming a crashing helicopter into a giant Hot Wheels toy, but 1, they set that up in his nephew's room who never comes back, and 2, I think that might just be product placement because that's literally a Hot Wheels commercial who were making Green Lantern toys.
Hot Wheels and Green Lantern come together! Incredible transformations! Hot Wheels speed! Astonishing stunts! The power to save the day!
A racetrack.
Yeah.
That's the best you could come up with.
We even see how imaginative the other lanterns can be, with Tomar Ray making an abstract art piece as he discusses how the ring is powered by imagination.
The ring's limits are only what you can imagine.
And then it looks like Hal tries to copy that art piece from memory before he's interrupted. Then there's how inventive Sinestro is with his ring. Why aren't we following these lanterns? That would be much cooler. Also worth a mention, the only reason he beats Parallax is by copying Kilowog.
The bigger you are,
The faster you burn.
And I know it's setup and payoff. Normally that would be pretty reasonable, but this is Green Lantern we're talking about. Why do we need to set up the Hot Wheels commercial? Use your imagination! Yes, one's imagination is gathered through inspiration, but like the execution is what's original. What's original about a big fist being the first and last construct we see? And if a ring reflects its wearer, I'm seeing a pretty boring guy. Then there's DCU's lanterns, which, yes, at the time of recording hasn't come out yet, but given the marketing, we're not seeing much cool lantern shit.
I don't understand. Who are you exactly?
Hal Jordan, Green Lantern.
You know what screams Green Lantern? Declaring yourself to be a Green Lantern in civilian clothing and showing off the Green Lantern abilities of throwing a guy with your bare hands? Like he doesn't even glow when he flies. What are we doing here? Oh, and I'm sorry, I can't forget to mention the live-action Green Lantern between these Hal Jordans. Yalan Gur, of course, everyone's favorite lantern! He's so great in both cuts of Justice League. In Joss Whedon's Justice League, he makes a hammer, which I know doesn't sound very creative, but in the 4-hour director's cut of Zack Snyder's True Vision, he does something less creative by just shooting lasers. Are you excited yet? So anyways, in Throne of Atlantis, Green Lantern has a giant vacuuming robot that sucks up an army and disposes of them in the back. Tell me which one you'd rather see. Animation, much like comics, shows off how much of a lantern's power is just instinct. Regardless of the situation, it doesn't require much thought. It's just an extension of the character. Quite literally, because it's their mind made manifest. We can read who the character is by their use of the ring. It's why lantern fights are exciting. It's not about who's more powerful, it's about who can outthink the other. Like watching two wizards duel, or two masters of the martial arts have it out. And live-action Green Lanterns can't really accomplish that the best. A superhero using their powers for any task, big or small in live action, uses money. With some powers it's a breeze, but when you get to powers that need CGI, extensive planning is required, and as you know, Green Lanterns use a lot of CGI, so a scene like this in a comic would be much easier to do in animation than live action, because all you need to do is model or draw it. Which is a lot of work, obviously, but crafting an entirely realistic VFX scene around an actor almost feels like more work and money than it's worth, especially for something so casual. We need that live-action CGI animation budget specifically for those big action scenes instead of, you know, everything being animated. Let's take a small break from the superhero genre and focus on a different character that uses a lot of imagination. Genie from Disney's Aladdin, a character born to be animated. Every frame shows off the genie's creativity. When he's on screen, reality has no rules. He can create, shapeshift, and do whatever he pleases. All it takes is an animator to put pencil to paper. Then we get to the live-action version, where he's mainly just Will Smith. And you can tell that there's a restriction on working in a live-action medium instead of an animated one. Nothing shows off the restriction more than the Prince Ali number. Robin Williams' Genie is using his magic constantly, taking different forms and teleporting. Will Smith's Genie teleports a few times and shapeshifts once. The benefit of animation is obvious. It's the same reason that Mr. Mxyzptlk works better in animation than live action. Now, I don't want to get it twisted. I think that a reality warping character can work in live action. The Mask is a great example, because they dedicated themselves to the bit, blending world-class CGI with a damn good prop department into a very cartoon-esque movie. They did such a good job that when The Mask was inevitably adapted into a cartoon a short time later, the transition between mediums was quite seamless. I think a live-action Green Lantern could take some notes. Not full-on cartoony like The Mask, but don't be afraid to get creative with constructs or how you portray them. Okay, I know. I haven't talked about him yet. At least, not extensively. But why am I holding back on the bowl cut? Well, it's because he's the best live-action Green Lantern. He has a physical costume. Almost every scene he's in, he's using a hard light construct. Every construct is unique and shows off Guy's personality. They even get to do a soft material with giant green oven mitts. This is a great bar to set for this universe's Green Lantern Corps. Too bad the rest of it's ashamed of being a Green Lantern project.
It's called Lanterns because we all agreed that the green was stupid.
You ever talk with the other lanterns?
I'm the only human. They're aliens. One of them's a fucking squirrel.
It's been 14 years! Keep it up and you'll reach Aquaman amounts of self-loathing. Except, oh wait! No one makes those jokes about how lame Aquaman is anymore. You already proved that Green Lantern is cool to a mass audience with Guy Gardner and Superman. You had Hal on the damn studio intro for 6 years straight. Just this dangling promise that we'll get to it, and after all that, this is what you get as the first fully Green Lantern project? The Brown Lantern? But wait, they're saving it for the show. I don't believe that. We might see a few small uses of the ring, but that's it. I had a thing written about the immaturity of this series, but Grant Morrison recently said it best. TV writer/producer Damon Lindelof's comments notwithstanding, the Green and Green Lanterns, Green is not stupid. Why does a writer attach himself to the kind of narrative if he thinks it's fundamentally stupid? You don't hand CSI scripts to patronizing writers who condemn forensics experts and their haircuts as stupid. So why hire people who are ashamed and in denial about the comic book material they've been assigned to develop? Why don't they turn down jobs they're not suited for? It's not like he needs the money, and Lindelof has proven that he can come up with his own ideas. What is this jockish dismissal of superhero conventions intended to prove anyway? Does Lindelof imagine it makes him seem less nerdy? It's a bit too late for that, so what's it all about? The only people who give a fuck about the Lanterns TV series are Green Lantern fans. Why alienate them at the start? That feels more like stupid. Green Lanterns is a much more evocative and dramatic title than Lanterns. Just as Raise the Red Lantern is a better movie title than Raise the Lantern. And anyone who can't grasp why that is shouldn't be anywhere near superhero stories. The show might even be good, but how much better could this stuff be if studios were willing to hire the right people for the job instead of phoning their embarrassed friends to water the source material down? End quote. Hi, Editing Jenny here. I know that Damon Lindelof and Grant Morrison have apologized to each other, but I do think parts of Grant Morrison's statement still stand. The Green Lantern mythos is vast and spectacular, and there's a way that you could adapt it into live action. Physical suits and even some physical constructs at times, with some CG enhancements when necessary, could theoretically keep costs down, serve as a basis for VFX artists, and not drive them insane, like the early Iron Man suits. No matter. I have a different Green Lantern show in my future. From the My Adventures with Superman team at that, and the Green Lantern cameo that cartoon had, has me excited for another animated Green Lantern to add to my collection.